The title, the topic for today's talk is, what is it?
Mistaken apologies.
Mistaken apologies. So what I want to say is apologies are valuable. We should, if we bump into someone or accidentally make things difficult for someone and we see that, then it's totally appropriate to say, whoops, or I'm sorry, or I didn't mean to do that, or I'm sorry if I've hurt you, whatever. But keep it very simple. The way in which it's mistaken is when we overdo it. The first apology is very clear and is actually a simple transaction, relationship transaction happening between two people, two situations. And so, but you'll notice that if you're looking for a payback, if you're looking for forgiveness, very, very suspicious to do that. So we're willing to apologize, but you need to forgive me or acknowledge what a wonderful person I am because I've been so kind to take time out of my busy schedule of being self-centered to defer to you. Thanks for being here, Ruby, and keep me from swearing. Hopefully. Please scold me if I swear with you. So very simple. We bump into someone or get in someone's way or in some way interfere with someone accidentally. Or maybe even at the time we did it, maybe it was more purposeful, but then we have kind of some little regrets about that. I really owe them an apology. That's probably appropriate to do that. But what happens is, what usually happens to ego, which is always spinning around and with its nose up its butt, it's okay to say that. With its chasing its tail, looking me, that's the kind of thing that's happening. And so as a meditator, you are endeavoring to step in the way of that and expand the awareness to see what this situation fundamentally is. And of course, that may tend to go inward. You may need to go in and inspect more closely what your thought patterns are, and in particular, what your intentions are. The reasons behind your need to do anything at all. So what happens is, first we say, I'm sorry. No, I really mean it. I'm really sorry. I really didn't mean to do that, over and over. And you can tell if someone's ever done this to you, you want to say, okay, right, it's okay. So sometimes we want to extract forgiveness. This is not really forgiveness. This is more about our self-centeredness. Even the whole forgiveness construction, very misunderstood. Quite often, forgiveness is more about how you feel. I'm such a wonderful person. I'm going to forgive you, you poor thing who can't help yourself but be evil. Look very closely at that. And again, I'm not trying to go all the way and say you never can forgive someone. Of course you can. But keep it very simple so it doesn't get into some big project about how wonderful you now feel because you've finally forgiven someone. I like to say it this way: best not to blame anyone in the first place. And I've even given a talk recently about withdrawing or retracting the blame. There's a slogan in Buddhism that's called "All dharmas are without blame." And this means any kind of function that is coming up, any kind of occurrences, you cannot find the first cause to anything. So when someone says the buck stops here, I doubt it. That just means that somebody wants a buck to stop somewhere and they aren't willing to work out of their awareness. They need to work out of some kind of position of right and wrong. This is just, I can't say that. This is just baloney. How's that? what happens is when we say, I'm sorry the first time, it's like I said before, it's an authentic, there's something genuine about that in our relationship. We're being concerned about the feelings of others or hurting someone. But watch when you tend to go overboard about it. Like if you don't get a response from the person, they're just listening to you. They're still dealing with their blame. And so they're still working with that, but you don't want to give them the time. I'm saying, this may not apply to you, but quite often we don't want to give the person the time to really take their time, see where they're really at with it. One person may never say that's okay. They may just listen and not say anything. You need to respect that. If you would like to have respect for yourself, you can start by extending that out to others. And how do you extend it out to others? You need to have respect for yourself. And when I say respect for yourself, I'm not saying believe your thoughts. What am I saying? I'm saying quit objecting to everything that happens inside your so-called mind. This is what meditation is about. You sit down and you take a position where you're just going to observe what happens. There's no comment. And of course, when there is a comment, I don't like that. I don't feel good. This shouldn't be this way. This shouldn't be this way. This is your opportunity as a meditator, as someone who is interested in promoting, extending, strengthening your awareness so you can see what is true for yourself. This is your opportunity to just what? Just be with that. Be with that. Rather than immediately find someone to blame, to get that difficult emotion out of you onto someone else. Well, if they hadn't said that, I wouldn't feel this way. This is just baloney.
Sometimes I have a frantic need for resolution when there's been some sort of transgression. How do you work with that impulse to, I need things to be resolved, I need us to be okay now? How do you work with that?
Thank you. So you could actually go into the very statement you made and see if there's actually words arising, like I need this to be okay. See if there's words there, or if these are words you're just giving to me to help me understand where you're at emotionally or feeling wise. Are you really hearing those words arise? What's arising?
Discomfort.
Okay. And what arises? What was arising just before the discomfort?
Usually it arises pretty soon after some sort of transgression.
So quite often, and this is why it's so difficult for all of us, because it's a little of this, little of that. It's not entirely one cause. This is why blame doesn't work. We're not saying that this moving through the air, running into this, doesn't cause a sound. I'm not trying to get rid of the situation entirely. I'm saying that there's a lot of causes and conditions that lead up to this. One, and you've heard me say this, some of you, many times, we don't know where this came from. We don't know where this came from. We don't know where this came from that's moving this through the air. And we don't know where the air came from that was so generously supplied to us by what? You don't know the source of anything. You can't really know the source of anything. And so to spin your wheels searching for cause. It's like a bunch of crows in the air. Cause. When I was in retreat back in 1977, I was in a month-long solitary retreat. And the retreat was going just fine until all these crows started yakking at each other. I was in the woods, not too far away from here. The crows down at this end would yell at the crows at this end. And then that crow would yell at those crows. Then all those crows would fly down here, and then that crow would fly way down at the other end. And then caw. It's just, they ruined my meditation. Cause. And eventually they kept clawing, but eventually, just by virtue of being there, meditating 8 hours a day, day after day after day after day, eventually they just became part of the whole thing. Not because of anything I did, it's more because of something I didn't do, which was leave. You either emotionally or mentally or physically. It's called holding your seat. And it's not really a particularly stubborn, but it is very intent, and it is very intense, and it is very intentional to actually look at whatever arises. So in Sokuzan, in your situation, the emotion itself needs to be observed before any blame is sent out. And if the blame is already sent out, then just look at the blame. And if you can, find the tail of it and pull it back using images. To actually see through your prajna, through your wisdom eye, through your omnipresence, through your, maybe I need to use a simpler word, through your awareness, that you can see that whatever occurred is just part and parcel of that person's karma, the causes and effect. You don't know how that person, let's say it's a person mistreating you, how they were treated 15 years ago by their parents. You have no idea the causes and conditions that come up behind anyone. That's why the whole system of democracy and prison systems and all this blaming and crediting and blaming is, it's just like a bunch of 8-year-olds in a sandbox. Except for Ruby, of course. She wouldn't fight. She's a Libra. Why would she fight? Sheldon.
And some people that come here might be working a 12-step program.
Yes. Yes, 12-step.
One of those steps is making amends.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how this view of apologies applies to making amends?
First of all, you probably don't need to do that. I'm very aware of what you're talking. I went to 12-step in the 80s. I went to Al-Anon a lot because of the partner I was with. So I'm very familiar with 12-step. So you probably, a lot of that making amends is more about you trying to become a better person. I'm not against that. If you need 12-step, by all means, go do it. But it's difficult to combine 12-step with what we do. There are Buddhists around who do this and say that this can be done. I'm not going to argue. What do I know? Maybe ways of doing this that I haven't seen. But I've been looking at this for 40 plus years with a lot of intention. So I would say, if you need to do that, then by all means do it, but do it simple with no request for acknowledgement or forgiveness. That's the part that gets difficult because what you're doing is you're actually going, the awareness is caving into passion and then falls completely away from compassion, which it's set out to do in the first place, and falls into a kind of passion that is more about craving or grasping, and wanting something out of it. That slips into reverse so quickly. It's very difficult to see unless you have a really powerful awareness practice. You need to see, when I say you need to, you don't need to do anything. You can get up and leave. You can go have cereal. It's a cereal city, after all. Or you can listen and just consider what I'm saying. Just consider it. Consider that when any kind of emotion goes out towards something, that it's very easy, unless you're very observant, it's very easy for it to slip into something else. Ego does that. Self-centeredness does that. Belief in a solid, separate being who can be right or wrong, correct or incorrect, or who can harm or be harmed. It's called the 8 worldly dharmas. Deeper question on that, please. Help me here.
I don't need to do that, like you said. But
Yeah.
we need to help people that are coming here that may not understand.
Yeah, but you could still do that. You're not incorrect if you do that, but take a lot of awareness so that you realize that you really just need to keep it very simple. Very simple interchange is totally appropriate. It's when it goes deeper and then there becomes something, a couple different directions. One, the outward direction is you need them to acknowledge you, that you've done this. Okay, got that settled, but now I'm off the hook. You don't need to get off the hook. You need to see that there isn't any hook. There is no hook. Nobody's to blame. You're not to blame. Don't stop blaming yourself. On the other hand, don't blame anyone else. How many hands do I have left? On the other hand, there's lots of options for that. Yes, sir.
Could you give an example of a simple way to acknowledge something without, apologizing or getting too fluffy about it?
Yeah, I can. We've talked about this not too long ago. Something happens where someone is incorrect or has taken advantage of you, or maybe you can come up with an example. Can you?
You've given me the example to acknowledge that you're working on it, like with my sarcasm, but acknowledge that what I said kind of just came out,
Yeah.
and I'm working on it.
Yeah, and you could say that, and I've told you and other people to a similar kind of thing. And say, you don't have to pretend that it's not there. You don't have to gush about it. Oh, I'm so sorry, but you're not likely to do anyway. You're more likely to turn in and not say anything, and just hope it goes away. But what I would say to you is extend yourself out to the person that whose toe you stepped on, or whatever it may be, or offended, or and just say, I realize that that I was being sarcastic there, and then say, like I think I said before, and just say, I'm working on it. I'm doing the best I can with that. You might say, I'm sorry. Anytime you say I'm sorry, make sure that you're doing it intentionally. You reflect on, I'm sorry. That seems to work here. I'm sorry. Instead of, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean that. I've been such a fool. This is just reverse egocentrism. You're just chasing your tail around. It's going to come right back around. You're going to do it again, or something similar to it. Stop blaming. Or if you do blame, pull the energy back away from that. Stop consolidating and overlapping. Yes, they did it. Well, they did it. Well, if they hadn't done that, I wouldn't feel this way. Blah, blah, blah. Help me go deeper. You have questions? Yes, Greg.
I wanted to, if I may, expound on the 12-step idea of.
Be very careful expounding here. I'm the expounder.
I understand.
And we don't have conversations here. On the other hand, if you want to say something about 12-step, go ahead. Keep it short.
In my experience with 12-step programs, there's a fundamental difference between saying I'm sorry and making amends. It seems to me that you're talking about doing neither. Is that what we're talking about here?
I didn't say that. I said just when you're in that area, bring a lot of awareness into it. I wouldn't think of interfering with anybody by saying you never can do this or you shouldn't do this. I'm saying just be very careful that when you're making amends, it isn't about you making amends so that you feel better. I had someone make amends to me one time, and it was written all over them that they were doing that because they didn't like feeling guilty. So they're trying to get rid of their guilt. And so I'm stuck with their guilt. And I'm supposed to and say, oh, it's okay. It's okay. I know you didn't mean it. This is just baloney. Keep it that.
Amends or apologies really about effects?
Say more.
It seems to me that the other side of causes is the effect. And what we're really trying to figure out are the effects of a cause.
I follow you, but we're going into a conceptual labyrinth, and I follow what you're saying, and it falls in line with the way you problem solve. You do it conceptually. I'm saying spend more time looking at that wall, so those concepts start to lose their sharp edges. Some of us are really, really very conceptual thinkers. You're one of them. Not wrong. It's just that it tends to be more circular because it gives you the impression you're getting somewhere. You know what I mean. We've talked about it before. Yes, sir.
What are we, from a point of view of working with the mind, what are we doing when we acknowledge instead of apologize as far as the practice goes?
So you mean we're saying when you're using, instead of saying, overdoing the apology, we're just saying, I'm sorry I did that, and then leaving it at that. We're regardless of what response comes back. You've said it, you come in, you say it once. You say it more than one time, it's suspicious. But if you come in and say, I'm sorry, I said I was going to get the dishes done, I'm sorry, I didn't get them done. Walk away, or stand there and do something else. But don't necessarily wait for some kind of answer to that. So, the question again?
How is that? What is the practice quality, or what is it that we're bringing this into our life as a practice?
Yes.
And what is the intention? What are we getting out of this that we aren't able to get through just the gushing apologies?
What we're getting is we are encouraging, and even on a subtle level, but very definite, that's hard to see, we're validating presence, authentic presence. That there is no past and future. I don't want to get too much off into philosophy here. But there is past and future concepts. There's only this. There's only right now. This is why this is written up here. Our body mind seems to be in some kind of a transition from that we believe in, just because I have a lot of wrinkles and you don't. It validates nothing. It doesn't validate anything. We've been doing this over and over and over and over again. That's like saying, spring is good and fall is bad. More? There's more there. I can't do a talk alone. I have to do it with help. I have to have a lot of help. We'll get it to you next.
If we're building up a big story about how we need to apologize to somebody because we feel bad about the situation,
Yeah.
that's actually just adding to the apology and making it about us more than it is about
Yeah. Yes.
3 questions have come in. The first from Lisa out in Bellevue. She asks, is it okay to say, I forgive you, if it's clear that's what the other person wants?
It may be. I mean, I think it's so variable. You could say that if you feel like a person is really stressed about and feeling very bad and very guilty, and maybe they don't have the awareness practice you do. Maybe they're, if we have to be where people, have to meet people where they're at. Just because if someone is having difficulty, just because you work with your emotions a certain way, doesn't mean they need to. You might have to go and hug them and say, it's okay, don't worry, it'll be okay. I'm not holding anything against you, I understand. And possibly you might say that even if you do feel some blaming coming out, but you don't necessarily buy into that. That'd be warfare. So you may say that, but it needs to come out of awareness and not out of thinking. If it comes out of this thing we call accepting, rejecting, validating, discounting, that process of constantly chipping away at things with our thought process, then we need to back out of that. Go ahead.
From Chick May up in Traverse City.
Yes.
He asks, there are times that I know forgiving someone will alleviate some of their short-term suffering, but I don't genuinely forgive them. What should I observe when I'm in this dance of compassion and egocentricity?
I'd say you're already doing it. You just need to sit a lot more. I can tell what's happening with you. More sitting. More. When I say more sitting, I mean, that's what I teach. That's why I'm here. I'm a monk. We meditate a lot. And even if you're not a monk, it might be a good idea to spend a lot of time sharpening the blade that cuts, sharpening the awareness that sees, so you can see yourself what is true. What you need to move into, what you need to back away from, and what you need to do that actually starts to look like a dance. Because you're so in tune with everything. This doesn't mean you don't speak the way I did a moment ago to Greg about I'm the one who will talk here. He understands that. Everyone in here understands that. So it's not a matter of any kind of warfare or judging anyone. It's just a matter of dancing in a particular way with whatever arises. Yes.
From Sandra out in New York.
Yes.
Yes, conventionally, we need apologies outside of Sangha, maybe. How can that process be our teacher?
Read that again.
Conventionally,
Sandra.
conventionally, we need apologies, in parentheses, outside Sangha, maybe, in parentheses. How can that process be our teacher?
I think, Sandra, I think you're already saying it. You're seeing the contrast. Our contrast is a higher form of thinking, a higher form. It's much more refined. It's much more elegant. It's much more the warfare. The tension is still there, but the tension is more aesthetic. So we're actually seeing that and feeling that tension without sharpening our claws. So I think he's already doing that. He's answering the very question he's asking.
From Gyokudo up in Minneapolis.
I know her. She just left.
She says, is it not appropriate to express the depth of your sorrow if you are deeply sorry? Is that looking for forgiveness?
You should look closely at it. It might be necessary for you to just feel that way rather than try to get rid of it. Quite often what happens is we have this really deep feeling and it's maybe uncomfortable and we want to get rid of that energy. So we tend to express. Nothing wrong with expressing, but it needs to be looked at closely so it isn't just buying into the same old wheel of passion, aggression, ignorance. Because as soon as you, say for instance, I'll explain it this way. As soon as you when you say I'm sorry, but then you extend it, you try to get something back out of it, or you need to say it more. This is what you're doing. You're actually going from the passion part, a very simple passion, I'm sorry, this is passion, into ignorance. You're closing down in your awareness because you're so balled up in the passion. So the ignorance comes in like that, and then possibly some kind of resentment about the whole thing starts to happen. You can see this. If you've looked at your own mind at all, you'll see that there's grasping passion, and then there's the shutting down, and then there's some kind of resentment or ignorance. I mean, some kind of resentment or aggression coming out. Like we might apologize to someone, but if they don't respond, you start to get a little resentful. You know, this little mini story goes around, this little tiny mini soap opera. And our mind goes, well, I was nice enough to apologize. I mean, couldn't they at least acknowledge that? You know, asshole, sorry. Anna Maria.
It seems like with blatant harms, that it seems much easier that the acknowledgement of the harm when you do something like,
yes.
I'm sorry I shot your cat.
Yeah.
But it's the more subversive ones in my case. Like, I'll give you an example. There's a neighbor that is always wanting to say hello and in my face, and when I don't, I acknowledge that might be hurting his feelings. But sometimes I walk right past him.
I heard you.
Is my knowing that is harming him or hurting his feelings, and my not doing anything about it, or sometimes even pleasuring in that, you know, it's like leaving him alone. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Does that, what to do with that?
Don't do anything with it. I mean, you've laid out a whole stage set there. I would say don't do anything with it. Just look at what's happening. I don't know this person. You're describing something. There's no way I can know all of the nuance and all the subtlety that is happening. How long the hallway is, how wide it is, how close you are in body. You know, there's so many things going on there. The tone of his voice, how he looks, how kind of eye contact. You follow me? I'm not talking about psychology. I'm talking about awareness. And the awareness needs to be both directions, out and in, any stuff. What's happening inside, what's happening outside, until at some point you realize there's no difference between out there and in here. There really isn't. We sure think there is, and we want to make something of it. So your second thoughts about hurting him that's where the shutting down starts to happen. That's how it sounds. But I would say that's a very good practice area for you. And something you could do there is you could turn around without being aggressive, turn around and face him squarely and say, how are things going for you today? And I don't want to shock him too much. Don't give him a hug or anything. Might have a heart attack. But actually change it. Not a lot. Not for his benefit or harm, but turn it a little bit so you can see what's happening with your awareness there. It's a little bit experimental, but if it's
practice,
of course, especially for you. I mean, you sit every day, so it's a practice, an awareness practice for you to see what is happening with your emotions and how you're projecting onto him that he's been harmed.
Oh, but he's told. He said, how come you don't say hi to me? How come you don't ask me how I'm doing?
What do you say to him? What do you say to him when he says that?
I'm like, how you doing, George?
Sounds good to me. Yeah. Don't add. Keep it very simple. Don't forget gravity when you're walking down that hallway, because you tend to get sucked up into. If there's any kind of emotional contradiction going on, you get sucked up thinking you're thinking. And this is because you've been conditioned this way from when you were very young. Am I correct? Am I incorrect? Correct. I'm correctish. It's like a Cornish hen. Yes.
More questions.
Yes.
This one from Sokuzan in Traverse City.
Goes on.
A little bit ago, you said it needs to come out of awareness and not thinking. How will this distinction show itself?
Because it will show itself in that you will do something in such a way that it's not impulsive, but also you have no idea whether you're right or wrong. If you know that you're right, you know that you're wrong, you are full of baloney. Knowing that you're right and wrong, it's just a misunderstanding about the nature of the human mind, of human beings. If you think you're right or you're wrong, or someone else is right or they're wrong, you need to sit a lot. Yes, sir. Michael.
So you're saying that if you keep asking the question, am I a good person? You've added.
Yes. There is no person. There is no person. I'm not saying there's not compassion, but there's no solid entity. There are a lot of people that are trying to be good people. I'm not discounting them. They're not ready to do this practice. They should read somebody else or listen to someone else, but follow some other spiritual path or do something else or have a therapist. I'm not trying to make them wrong. They're not ready for this. You're ready to at least hear this. You wouldn't be in the room. You may or may not be ready to do it. And I don't think you can do this without a teacher. It's very difficult. We see all kinds of people practicing without any teacher connection, and they are just making themselves feel better. Yes, sir.
I want to know then if for a handle to grab
Yes.
in a key situation when we're traversing an encounter like this where we feel compelled or have called.
When we have an encounter where we feel
with
compelled.
forgiveness or,
Okay.
or I'm sorry. Or
Okay, I got you.
Accepting is the key expectations. What we bring to that.
No, that's way deeply into concepts. Don't go there. Don't try to think your way out of it. You didn't necessarily think your way into it. It just occurred. It happened. This happened. That happened. This happened. That happened. And then you want to have some kind of resolution or want to have some kind of explanation conceptually. And I would say, stay in your senses. Don't add. Don't subtract. Don't do any math at all. If you start judging anything, yourself or others, based on causes and conditions, it's not that it isn't relatively correct. Of course it is. Relatively, if somebody shoots somebody else, relatively they shot them. But we don't know what brought that person to that point or what put the other person in the path of that. Well, yes, sir.
But what I'm hearing others ask was kind of a little more on the lines of the receiving and being uncomfortable.
Ask the question.
Is it okay? it's almost as if is it okay to lie to participate in that
You might have to.
exchange
You-
when they say
you
they're
might have.
sorry, and I have to say, out of
I'm
cultural whatever, you are forgiven. Do I have to if I don't feel it?
I think that's up to you. I can't give you a protocol for that ahead of time, but I would just say bring a lot of awareness to it. You may lie, you may not, but don't set up standards. I'll say it again. Don't set up standards. Just because you do something one time doesn't validate you doing it the next time. It won't make any sense. If you think it's gonna make some sense, sit down and face the wall. Do it a lot. I don't make any sense. I don't have a thinking process that serves self-centeredness or ego. I don't think about any of this. I don't think about what I'm going to say when I come in here and say, why did I name it that? I even had to ask her, why did I name it? Why did I name this that? Well, you said you were going to say something. Oh, that's right. One more short one from Anna Maria.
Very good. Can that be an example of breaking the karmic?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's breaking it, but you have to do it every day. Every day of your life has to be not buying into the apparent separation that we all think we're in. It just creates warfare. Don't do it. If you're in a love relationship with someone and it's not working, and it's just warfare, leave. I mean, do it politely, but don't stay in and keep trying to hammer out, trying to fight and see who's right, who's wrong, justify. You might have to stay in it. It might be your karma, you could say, to just stay in a difficult relationship. It depends. And when I say it depends, it really does.
From Shane out in California, he asks, what is irritation?
Well, it's I know Shane, you already know what it is. It's your question is irritating. It is irritating. Irritation is just things are flowing and then something comes in from another direction. It goes like this. And you don't have to get rid of irritation. You just have to allow the irritation to be what it is. Don't add anything onto it. If you invent stuff about why you're irritated, what somebody shouldn't have done or should have done, it just goes, it gets all complicated. Keep it very simple. Be like a little rabbit. Yes.
Question from Stephen, I'm not sure where he's from. If we are in the present moment, no past, no future, and there is no progression of growing from one level to another, then what is the path quality to our practice? I mean, where is it leading if there is only really uncovering of illusion and storylines?
That's exactly well said. That's what it is. You are ultimate reality is already the case. You are already not separate from what this sculpture represents, the Buddha, the awakened one. The word Buddha doesn't mean a god or someone that you have to worship. It means the awakened, someone who woke up and saw that everything is dependently arisen, that nothing comes from its own side as a separate individual entity. If you realize that, the warfare is over. And so the path is working with your own personal warfare and endeavoring to make friends with yourself. Make friends with your own internal turmoil and difficulty by not trying to wrestle with yourself and struggle, but just hold still. This is why we sit down, hold still, and imitate the Buddha. Imitate, hold still. Body follows mind, mind follows body. You can't find the mind. You can find your mind, bring it up here and let's see it. You can't find your mind. There's just, nothing is separate. The body mind is not separate. Your very body is expressing your confusion or your awakening. Stop what? Stop this.
For the next.
Now we're going to do
Future.
for the future, we're going to do the daily Dharma gathering. Okay, thank you so much.
In the back of your yellow chant books is our dedication of merit. Please join in if you wish. Also, I'd like to let everybody know this Saturday, July 30th, is our all day, and please come be with us if you can from 9 to 9. Also, don't forget our donation boxes in the hallway and online.
May the merit of this penetrate into all places, so that we and every sentient being together can realize the Buddha's way. San Shi Son Mu Sa Mo Do Sa Mo Do Ya Ri. The 10 directions, the 3 worlds, all Buddhas, all venerable ones, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, the great Prajna Paramita. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and the 3 times, please hear us. Please come down out of the light and protect Sokokoji Buddhist Temple Monastery, our Sangha, families, friends, and visitors. Heal everyone who is unhappy, sick, or suffering, and fill them with